Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Kara Vogt from Fathers, that is Families Against the Heroin Epidemic rally in Stark. And if you want to find out more about the motorcycle poker run that they hold in June, right around Father's Day, go to fathersrunstark.com. What we're finding out now is going to kick off March 17th. That's why you're here today. A new initiative for kids. These are kids who have a family member who is an addict. Yes?
That is correct. And it can be any circumstance. It's first of all, not limited to opiate addiction. It's any addiction whatsoever. And I've lost the thread of this.
Well, that's okay, because I can pick this up again. Because what do we know? What age kids start to deal with these kinds of things? Like, kids will be aimed at what group?
Kids is aimed at the 8 to 12-year-olds. One of the primary reasons for that is where my background is with Cub Scouting.
Right.
So I'm
perfect.
Very familiar with the resources that we have available in Stark County for kids of that age group. But again, it's also, I think, in many ways, the most overlooked group. I feel like younger kids under, 6, 7, tend to be a little bit more adaptable to situations.
Yes.
And teenagers are a little more difficult to deal with. And there are programs already in existence for them, again, such as Alateen. And school-based programs and church groups and things like that. But there's nothing for this age bracket.
This is the group that's kind of fallen through the cracks,
Exactly.
And are they maybe even predisposed even at this young of an age to be interested in experimenting with some kind of drugs themselves, even in the 8 to 12 group?
Unfortunately, you do hear stories of, kids as young as 10, 12 starting to experiment.
This is not for those kids.
No, this is not for kids who have a drug or alcohol problem. It is for kids who are affected by a family member.
There would be other programs.
And it's not limited to just parents. A lot of there could be kids with, older siblings who are affected, or in some cases even grandparents, aunts, uncles. So
if it's in the home, if it's affected the family, this is for the children in the 8 to 12 age range.
Exactly.
Who are having to deal with that at home in some way, in some capacity.
Correct.
Are you working with the schools? Who are you collaborating with all of this?
We are collaborating with ComQuest and their school-based prevention staff. They are in most, if not all, of the schools in Stark County, and they are one of the organizations that is in a position to outreach to the kids who have been affected. We have also reached out to the police departments, all of the police departments in Stark County, asking them to get this information to their school-based officers. I'm not sure which schools have school-based officers, but I know at least some of them do, so that is another avenue. We have reached out to some of the grassroots organizations, such as Ohio Can, which works with a lot of people in recovery. We're working with Lamar Sharp from the Canton City Police Department and his Build a Better Me program.
Me. Yes.
He's in a position, again, to know some kids that could benefit from this program.
Well, that's where I was going.
ComQuest, through their residential housing, is in a position to get some of this information to parents. So we're working a lot of avenues, social media, of course, word of mouth, and the repository, I think, is supposed to be featuring a story when we're ready to get our registration open.
Awesome.
Which we are hoping is going to happen this week.
Okay, that's great. And this is February 2nd. So hopefully today or sometime this week.
We are hopefully today, but if not today, definitely by the end of the week. And that registration...
Sorry, this is February 5th. I keep saying this is
and I'm just going to go right along with
This is not
you.
Groundhog Day. This is February 5th, and so hopefully today or this week.
Yes, and once that is open, registration can be done online at fathersrunstark.com. There is a tab that says Kids Day Camp Program, which will have all of the information for the program dates, locations, and has the registration form on it. Again, registration forms should be available through the schools. And if you can't find it anywhere else, you can always give a call to that 232-4111 number. That's a direct line to me, and I'll make sure that you get what you need.
That's awesome. All right, so it sounds like you really are working with people who would have contact with potential campers. Are there any flags? We hear about flags to be able to know if someone is struggling with an addiction. Are there flags to be able to detect when a child is part of a family with someone who is struggling with addiction?
That question is above my pay grade.
Okay.
I'm sure that there are.
Yes.
I don't have that information with me.
Well, that's all right.
So.
But it sounds like you really are networking really well with people who know what they're looking for and will be able to get the right children to you.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Fathers does all the way around. Even with our poker run, we find that we're very committed to bringing people to an awareness of the resources that we have available. Mm-hmm. Prior to the kids program, we were not actually a resource provider. We were more of a information exchange.
Mm-hmm. And supporter.
But now I think we may qualify as a resource provider with the kids program.
You absolutely qualify. Tell us what's going to happen at day camp. It sounds like fun.
It better be fun or they're not coming back. And that's very important that the program, it's on a Saturday. Even though we have what we're calling a curriculum, we do not want it to be like going to school. Mm-hmm. The program focuses on coping skills, dealing with issues of stigma, hoping to touch on addiction science. How does this take over the brain? What is going on in these people's brains that they can't just quit their drug of choice? Mm-hmm. We want to stress that addicts do not love drugs, and that addicts, even in addiction, do still love their children. And we also are working on what are called the 3 C's, which for anybody who's ever been to an Al-Anon meeting, that's I didn't cause it, I didn't cure it, and I can't control it. Especially the cause and control issues tend to be really big with
and
kids.
That kind of goes with serenity because,
Exactly.
To be able to accept the things I can't do anything about and do something about those things I can.
Everybody needs serenity. Even if they're not old enough to spell serenity, they still need it.
They still need it. We all need it.
They still need it. We all need it. And we work from the theory that these children have the same questions and the same confusions and need the same type of support that we as parents needed and would struggle with in the early days of our involvement in addiction. We just need to put it in a way that's fun and that addresses their level of understanding.
What kind of coping skills are you going to go through with them?
Coping skills, the kids are going to go home with coping skills bags, which will include probably what's called a control wheel, which is basically a paper that's going to emphasize things that they can control, which is their own behavior, their own responses to situations, and then the things that they can't control, which is pretty much everything else. But you tend to lose sight of that when you're living in the chaos of an addiction situation. We will address things like using breathing techniques to relax yourself. We're going to do that with bubble blowing, using bubble stuff or chewing gum, depending on the age. We're going to make what are called find it jars or calm down jars. And this is basically a pop bottle with some rice in it, and we put like those foamy stickers and buttons and things with emojis and things that make them happy.
Yes.
And then we have, we're going to do stress balls.
Oh, good.
Out of, hopefully this will work, balloons and Play-Doh. Yeah, I've seen them with sand, but I think those will not hold up very well, and then people will be mad at me because they have sand all over their
over the
house.
house, yeah.
So we're working with a Play-Doh plan.
Interesting.
And then some of our activities will tie into stress release as well. One of the programs we will be doing, which I believe is November at the Navarre YMCA, is going to be a yoga class. And I'm hoping to get something with music.
Nice.
That one's still pretty far out there. But exercise in general is a good stress release, and that's where we kind of focus. Healthy play, healthy emotions.
And it does trigger I think if I've got this right, it triggers that chemical in the brain that people are trying to trigger through drugs in the beginning.
Correct.
So
Yes.
you want to feel better. Teach them to exercise early on, and that will be a good way to trigger that. Yes?
Yeah,
Am I
exactly.
getting
No,
that
you are absolutely on track. One of the other things we're going to have is what's called the problem box. One of the things that my advisory council of 8 and 12-year-olds have told me they would like is the opportunity to ask a question that they're not willing to say out loud to somebody.
Yes, good idea.
So the problem box will be where they can anonymously ask a question or put in a problem like, what do I say to the kid that made fun of me because my mom died? Mm-hmm. So we will have our professional staff from ComQuest will be dealing with those.
No, my very next question. It sounds like you need to have some professionals there with these kids who would be serving
absolutely.
as that group.
We will have just, I don't want to say off the street, but off the street volunteers. Background checks will be provided for all of our volunteer staff. Mm-hmm. The actual curriculum time, which I want to stress that these will be addressed through teaching games and activities, not sitting down and doing worksheets and that kind of thing. It's going to be up and moving and a fun day. So the school-based prevention staff from ComQuest will be staffing that portion of the day. We will have a counselor available for both the caregivers if they wish to discuss an issue with them, and also available if the children need help that day.
If folks want to volunteer, how do they reach you? And is it too late for someone to sign up to volunteer?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
Again, 232-4111. Give me a call.
Give it one more time, please.
330-232-4111 is my cell number. Or you can shoot me an email at fathersrunstark@gmail.com.
Awesome. And you'll work with the volunteers and train them a little bit, show them what kinds of things they would be doing, but someone who's got a heart for kids going through this, particularly a child who is being bullied because he's got this stuff going on at home that he's got no control over whatsoever. But, you think of these poor little guys that are going without food because parents are spending the money on drugs. We need to do something.
And volunteers of all ages. Really, the only requirement is 18 and over. I am even looking for people in recovery or even older children.
Great.
Of addicts. I have one young lady in particular whose mother is in recovery who wants to come out and help. I have another young lady who has been through some trauma herself with the death of a parent, not addiction related, but very sympathetic to the needs of these children. So
best way to feel better is to do something for someone else.
And that's absolutely the case.
Kara Vogt, thank you so much for all you're doing in our community.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to tell everyone about it.